that column did make that judgment. I think on balance, Trump would be better for Australia than Biden. And for some of the same reasons, Trump would be better for Israel than Biden. Now, Australia like Israel, or Israel like Australia, has bipartisan support in America. And don't let me be too critical of Biden here. It's very likely that Israel will maintain a strong alliance with the United States under a Democrat presidency, and there is strong bipartisan support for Israel. But like Morrison, Netanyahu and I think Shinzo Abe has been one of the three most effective Trump whisperers in global politics. So I would say Netanyahu, Abe, who's just retired, and Morrison have really been extremely effective interlocutors with Trump, and they've each got everything they wanted out of Trump. Indeed, you couldn't get, there's not a single bilateral issue where Australia has been disappointed by Trump. And for Israel, Trump has actually delivered. I mean, he moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Lots of American politicians have said they're going to do that. The sort of Ben Rhodes, Susan Rice, John Kerry consensus was that if you did that, you know, the whole Middle East would go up in flames and, you know, this would cost American lives, they said, and so forth. Whereas, in fact, the Arab reaction was very muted, very, very muted. And I think this gave Israel and the Trump administration confidence to go a bit further. And Netanyahu will not have the same special relationship with Biden that he has with Trump. Biden, I think, will not be as tough on Iran as Trump has been. Biden, I think, will sustain the Abraham Accords, but I don't know that he will, his administration will push as hard for normalisation between Israel and Gulf Arab states without the prior solution of the Palestinian problem. And I think for the moment the Palestinian problem is not amenable right now to a long-term, you know, permanent settlement. And if Biden went down that road that Trump has been, that would tend to validate Trump. So I think he's going to be reluctant to do that. And overall, I think he's going to be less assertive generally than Trump. So I think on balance, yes, I think on balance he would be worse. And my final thought is, when people talk about global opinion, especially in Australia, what they normally mean is The Guardian, Le Monde and the New York Times, plus Hollywood. And the global opinion typically leaves out the Middle East and Asia. I'm pretty sure that most of the Gulf Arab states would prefer Trump to Biden. And I'm very confident that most of the Asian states would prefer Trump to Biden. The region in the world which certainly would prefer Biden to Trump is Europe. So if you believe that Europe possesses singular and magnificent strategic judgment, you'd have to go with them. But I think in the Middle East and Asia, most governments would prefer Trump.